at the end of my time at Ubisoft, I've noticed something. Like the company that we all love, or once knew and loved, is dead. It's gonna die. Then they came up with Riders Republic, and guess what? People fucking hate it. Because
With everything going on in the world of games right now, primarily with the company Ubisoft, I decided that it would be a great time to scour the internet to see if I could get any kind of scoop on the ongoing drama that's been unfolding with that particular company. And holy shit, here in my own Discord was a former Ubisoft employee, one Mr. Ferosin Flint, who worked with the company for around a year in the years of 2018 to 2019. However, let's not take all of the man's thunder. How are you, Flint? And could you tell us about the general environment that you faced while working for Ubisoft?
No, I'm fine. My time at Ubisoft. Oh God, so how should I say this? Like the in general environment at Ubisoft was like this typical scenario of your boss is and your colleagues are fine. Like generally, everybody who was working there with me, I mean, first of all, I was basically up in northern, like in England, in northern England, at that branch there, and basically everybody who was there with me in the office was absolutely nice, like absolutely lovely. So it was more like your coworkers are nice, but your boss is kind of because at that time they did decided, you know what, we're gonna switch up all the language focused teams. So you're like, you got the German team who sits with Germans all together on their table, and their table group. You get the French people sitting in the French team, the Russians sitting in the Russian team and all that, But when I was arriving there, they basically decided to split up or like mix all of those teams together, which I already said in the beginning was a horrible, horrible decision because my Russian team lead doesn't understand the German work that I'm doing, obviously. So when she wanted to, criticize me on that or like give me some pointers what to work on, obviously she didn't understand what the fuck I was working on. So it was a mess. It was an absolute mess.
Yeah, it sounds like that was kind of a mess. Is there anything in particular, like any other weird policies that were possibly in place while you were there? Or?
Oh yeah, basically, it wasn't a policy in itself, but it was more like, if you want, you can do extra hours. And I'm like, yeah, will we get paid for that? Yes, you will. So there was this thing, it was like, yeah, okay, if you get paid extra for for extra hours, and like you get like normal, like more paid than you get usually paid, because it's extra. It's tempting. And in the beginning, I did that quite a lot because I needed the money. I was young and I needed the money, and it was. And at the end of the day, it wasn't really worth it. Like you sit there in the office until it's like dark outside. It's almost night. Like, it feels like it's night. And with the typical British weather, it's like it's wet. Usually, it's cold. Usually. And you need to go home, at that fucking hour of the night. It wasn't really pleasant. But at least the paycheck was better than your new normal and usual hours. Which, mind you, they didn't pay like nothing at all. It was just like for me back then at the point it was enough. Nowadays, I don't know if I would take a job that way because they're. The payouts weren't that good. Say like that. Weird policy on that.
Sadly, it sounds like some basic American overtime kind of stuff. But no, I can understand, especially with how cold northern England could be, how that would be a pain in the butt. So if you working there for about a year, what were some of the titles that you probably ended up working on?
So my baby, my little fucking love child, the thing that I still am kind of salty about how it ended up, but the thing that I cared the most about was For Honor, and that was a game. Oh, how should I say this? So we basically were working in year 2, and around the time where I was working was where year 3 was coming out. So it was more like this kind of transitionary phase. or year 3 was already a bit late. I don't really. I just know that year 3 was a thing, and I did focus around, cleaning up here and there, because the thing is, back then the issues, I'm not sure if they are still existing there, but in For Honor you can make your own emblem, right? Or your own player emblem. And Ubisoft back then gave the players a lot of freedom, which was good. But on the other hand, moderation was moderating that stuff was kind of a pain in the ass, because it ended up with having people running around with swastikas and all kinds of other stuff that's just heavily not okay. Let's say it like that. It wasn't just right like that kind of stuff. It was also like they just straight up. You remember probably the Black Ops icon make it, like this icon making thing there. They just straight up also put on there like naked women or whatever. And according to user policy and all that, that wasn't all right. That needs to be removed. So we had to clean up that a lot of times, and that was already something bad. And what I know or I remember, I was playtesting Far Cry New Dawn, which I found weird that they did that, but I was like, it plays well. It was not bad. It's just more of the old things, but in a different setting. I guess I get it. I wasn't. At that time I wasn't a huge Far Cry player, so I was like, Far Cry New Dawn. I guess it's okay. Another game that I playtested was which I actually kind of enjoyed. Like, honestly, it was one of the things where I was like, hey, I work at Ubisoft. was Starlink Battle for Atlas. The only thing, but even there, even with Starlink Battle for Atlas, because the thing is, I'm a huge Light Wars fan, Star Fox and all that. So hearing about Star Fox making an appearance in Starlink, I was like super thrilled. Thing is, though, some people maybe don't even remember or know that, is when Starlink released, they basically tried to sell it as a Toys to Life game. And I was there already openly criticizing, like this is like, I like the idea, but I know that this won't sell. It always has been the case. Whenever a Toys to Life project was brought into the market, nobody really, like, it was nice, don't get me wrong, but nobody really cared for it. People didn't really buy the toys, because why would they? Parents don't buy their children toys because they want to fly a certain fighter in a certain game. Parents buy toys for their kids, so they, like once maybe for Christmas or something like that. You don't have the money for that. It just doesn't work that way. They also knew that. They also accepted that criticism, still went through with it, and eventually, look at what happened. Starlink nowadays is not Toys to Life anymore. It's like fully digital, because guess the fuck what? It didn't sell. It didn't sell.
So it's sort of like a Skylanders thing then?
I feel like every time I was criticizing anything in a game at Ubisoft, it was like, later on, it turned out that I am right. If you get me. It was kind of fun. And like, for me, it was kind of fun to know, like, yeah, I am right, fucking hell. But it wasn't fun that that my criticism back then was just, slammed against the wall like it was nothing. Or like just blatantly ignored, because apparently you have to go for toxic positivity in that company for some reason. It's crazy.
Well, that leads straight into our next question. The company's been hounded with allegations of bias. Are there any examples like toxic positivity or like a left-leaning bias kind of thing that has been being hounded with, the whole woke agenda that some people would, coined for it? Were there any examples of this that you saw?
So here's the thing. People like to get political about anything because they see a way to basically push their own political agenda up front. I understand that, but on the other hand, if we're gonna be real fucking neutral here, the core issue about Ubisoft's toxic positivity isn't because it's left, or it's because they're, your usual, colored hair kind of toxic positivity, LGBTQ LMNOP kind of people. You get what I'm saying, right? It's more because actually they just don't listen to criticism. It's like, it's kind of weird. Let me give you an example. You remember what Uplay was, right? With like the client from Ubisoft that's now called like Ubisoft Connect and all that. So basically, one day, and they knew that we were like a bunch of PC players as well in the office. One day, the Uplay team invited us to, give them some feedback. And I was like, hey, that's cool. We're just sitting there in a meeting, in a room, and it's all cool. And there's like a couple of people of us gathered together to give them feedback on the current state of the Ubisoft client. And I'm like, okay, everybody of us, like, here's the thing. I know that a lot of people out there at that time and still have criticism against that client on PC, that it is not configurable enough, that it is too resource intensive, that there's so many things that you can criticize about that client still today. And a lot of people were like back then thinking, this criticism is just being ignored or it doesn't reach them. We have to scream louder. Well, here's the fucking joke. The people there, the Uplay team directly received that criticism also from us, 1-to-1. They even received more criticism because we were like, you can't do this. People are already angry about this. They don't want to play our games. They don't want to do this because PC players already are moving over to other games on Steam because they can't deal with this. Why are you doing it? Even EA does a better job than we do. Which was a big fucking stab into the heart for a couple of people in that meeting room. But it was a thing. It was already. It was maybe harsh criticism, but it was rightfully so placed in that room. And you know what the Ubisoft team did? Uplay team did. They stood there and we were like, yeah, we don't have the resources. I'm like, what? You don't have the resources to make it like a second client, which isn't really that difficult because you don't only need to work like on a second build that has maybe more or less features on it. Like, you don't really have to change that much, like, holy shit. A lot of the people who were in that meeting knew how to program clients. It was the thing that we were just normal users, We were standing there absolutely bamboozled with like, how is that even a reason? And two, they were saying as like, we don't have the manpower, we don't have the resources, like we can't pay the people for that stuff. And also, it would make things more complicated. I'm like, you're making things more complicated on the user because you don't want to work more for your money? Bro, what the fuck?
I mean, that's true. Some people like to not really work hard for what they do. Just get that paycheck,
Yeah, and that's legitimately what happened. And here's the thing, that was just the Uplay team. It doesn't come to surprise to me that they then decided, and you need to know, when I was getting into Ubisoft, like when I was starting to work there, it was right about the time when Odyssey was released. So we got still a couple of internal meetings about Ubisoft, about Odyssey, that I think are now like relatively common knowledge. I mean, you can see this even as well if you do. Even if it wouldn't be internal knowledge, you can see this if you have played a lot of Assassin's Creed games, because the way they made Odyssey was in a way was like, why would you do this in this kind of environment? I can imagine it was of a similar reason why the Uplay team decided to, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. Every single region in Odyssey is done by a different subsidiary of Ubisoft, and you can tell because the subsidiary that makes Trials, of course they're not going to know how to make good RPG content because they're used to Trials. People who make who made the fucking Far Cry games know how to do the shooting sections and maybe your average Far Cry style kind of missions, but not how to do like these immersive roundabout missions in Assassin's Creed, which is why some regions in Odyssey were lacking more than the others did. And why some quests in Odyssey felt super damn awesome, and some others felt like, holy bloody hell, that's written by a fucking 9-year-old, Like,
yeah,
why
did they
keep that?
Odyssey is one of the ones that I actually ended up platinuming.
Yeah.
And no, yeah, it definitely had some zones that were like packed, and then other zones that were like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's another allegation that's been being thrown at the company though, is that You got people working on first-person shooters who tend to program RTS games, and you got people who plan to do first-person shooters trying to do swordsmanship fights and say like the Assassin's Creed Shadows. So you're saying they were doing that all the way back in 2018 then?
They were doing that back then as well. Thing is, they got that idea from Origins. Because they were doing... Apparently they were doing this in Origins too. It's so crazy to me. The sole reason with this being is like to minimize... and I saw that as well. It makes sense if you think about it a wee bit as well. It's like to minimize the expenses and raise prices, because you make it this huge open world, but how do you make your open world even bigger with the same amount of cash that you're putting out anyway? Well, just get more developers involved. They didn't care that these developers do different kind of genres, that they do different kind of things. I remember Trials Rising, for example, was a pretty good game because only the people who worked on Trials games were making Trials Rising, which is why Trials Rising was fun in most of the time, It wasn't bad, it was all good, it was all right, And similar to that, Steep was a really all right game for a lot of enthusiasts that just love winter sports, right? It was pretty nice. Even for me, it's something where I'm like, I love that. Every now and then I sometimes go back into it. It's maybe not the perfect kind of game, in that aspect, but it's nice that it gets everything together, Like for snowboarding simulators or like for snowboarding games, there's better stuff out there, but this is cool. This is all right, Then they came up with Riders Republic, and guess what? People fucking hate it. Because what they try to do is do, again, more of everything with less people. I don't even know why they would do that. It is so terrible. And you can see that, I can see that even if I'm not employed in there anymore, because it was the same shit back then, it is the same shit back right now. It doesn't change. It only gets worse because they continue on. And now that I'm just seeing it as well, is Anno was good. Ubisoft Blue Byte has this special kind of rights inside of Ubisoft that they are doing everything for their games themselves. Nobody fucks with their games. Nobody does the support for their games. Everything they of their own games they do themselves. They're a complete independent subsidiary of Ubisoft. That's kind of weird to say that, but they are. And Anno 1800 was all right. It was good. It was cool. I'm not going to say anything wrong with this game. I like it myself, and a lot of Germans thought so too. But when it got released, my friend, in Northern England is the Customer Relationship Center of Ubisoft, right? You can look that up. It's the CRC EMEA, like for the European, Middle East, and Asia. And the German team, the German hotline, back then we still had a hotline. The German hotline was burning fucking down. It was full. They had the queue set up. It was filled up to the brim because people weren't getting their pre-orders, like pre-order digital edition stuff for Anno 1800, which was, I think, like a chessboard or some else stuff. I can understand that people are angry, but this was a different type of level of angry. It was like almost the entire nation of Germany calling Ubisoft, "Where the hell is my chessboard?" And I can see though that Anno and the Settlers, they're getting this much attention. And there's, they may not be the best games released ever, but they're still stable. How that goes on. Meanwhile, you have other games like Assassin's Creed, like Far Cry, like For Honor Year 8, Year 9, whatever. And these games continue to disappoint.
See, I hadn't even heard of Anno, so...
Yeah, It
has so little marketing that, until you just brought it up, I hadn't even heard of it, so...
It's a pretty long-standing city-building, I was about to say real-time strategy game as well. Technically it is real-time, but, remember in 2017. I don't know what it was. No, it was 2000, I think. In anno 2000 or somewhere around that. One of the future, one of more current time focused titles that were coming out before anno 1800. They introduced combat as well in the form of ship combat, which was okay. It felt all right. It wasn't, groundbreaking, but it was decent. It was better than anything could say about the, current releases that coming out.
Well, I mean, let's face it. Black Flag made everything Ubisoft have to have ships related in it for at least 10 years. So.
Yeah, don't even get me started about Skull and Bones. Oh my god. I'm.
Well, then let me get you started on Skull and Bones. let's.
So here's the thing. Skull and Bones is probably the most terrible sub story that you can probably imagine for Ubisoft, because, well, it started out so great and it was so fine, and everybody thought, this is gonna be a good game once it releases. Even the developers thought it was a good game once it released. But here's the thing, and I'm just gonna say it like this way, because like during the development of Skull and Bones, obviously I already left the company, but I was still like getting in touch, and all that. A wee little birdie, told me that apparently at some point in development they changed teams. Why would they do that? Cost efficiency.
Well, see, along with the whole cost efficiency thing actually comes to the last allegation that I've actually heard that they keep doing, and that is they don't hire the big names in gaming anymore, the big developers. No. What they do is they contract them out as subcontractors to overlook things. Yeah. And then they hire a bunch of, guys fresh out of college, a dude who just learned how to freaking do basic coding, and they have the one dude contract out to watch over all of these relative noobs. Is that something that was also going on when you were in, or is this? You think it's been getting worse and worse, or?
It's been actually getting worse and worse. So here's the thing, that was a relative rarity back then, because I remember for example, the customer relationship center used to be an external contractor, but then Ubisoft decided to, internalize that and get these people on board, which is how the customer relationship center in Newcastle upon Tyne started to be even, become a reality in that sense. So it's something they've done in the past. It's something they, did reverse on it, actually. Take actually a contractor in and teaching them the way, teaching them the way. They teach them the way to do things. But basically, it's a thing. But they also hired external contractors. I remember, I think it was Watch Dogs Legion or something like that. That was... Watch Dogs Legion, here's the thing. Watch Dogs Legion is a good game, but it's a terrible Watch Dogs. Because, people were enjoying it. People still kind of sometimes sort of enjoy it. But fans of the series don't really like it because it has absolutely nothing to do with Watch Dogs,
See, I got so excited for the first Watch Dogs when it came out. And then the difference between what they showed and what actually was in the first Watch Dogs turned me off from the whole series. Like, they showed way better graphics, way better things that you're able to do. And then I heard that due to, money related issues and setbacks, they ended up having to nix a lot of that. And that ended up making the product worse. And that turned me off from the entire franchise.
It was Watch Dogs 1 and 2 are still decent games. I actually, I myself actually pre-ordered Watch Dogs 2, and I liked it. It was okay, but Watch Dogs Legion, I feel like is lacking in a lot of aspects. It's lacking, but it's still, it's not like it's trash, it's the thing. It wasn't like that kind of game where oh god, even more of that kind of shit. It's still like London is awfully beautifully detailed, and you can still see the last few glimmers of Ubisoft's ingenuity in that game. So it's it's good, it's decent, but it's not the game that I would give like 5 out of 5 stars. I wouldn't even give it 4 out of 5 stars. Maybe like 3.5. You know, it's not terrible. It's mid. I mean, the environment there is alright, but it's okay.
See, then you run into the whole that there has recently been articles that came out about game journalists giving things, as you just put, a 3.5, so essentially a 7 out of 10. And 7 out of 10 is, it's the score they give so that they don't have to worry about big game companies not allowing them to review games anymore.
Yeah.
But, if you say mid, it would be a 2.5. Technically, a 5 would be the mid of the score. So, I mean...
It's like, I'm trying to say this is more like it's a mid, but it has one thing going for it, Yeah. It's like...
It had a
it's
cool
like
concept. It was an awesome concept.
It had a cool environment as well. I mean, what I'm talking about is the buildings, but it's like it's apart from that, it's mid. It's honestly, it's just mid. But it's like, no, people still had fun with it apparently. So I'm like, I'm okay with it. That's
all that really matters.
At the end of the day, that's all that really that truly matters for like the big guys up there. So you could say, maybe Watch Dogs Legion was weak for Watch Dogs fans, and maybe it wasn't the best that they could ever produce, but it basically shows where you still had some people who are Ubisoft enough to work at Ubisoft. Let's say like that, the kind of Ubisoft we remember and that we love. But to bring the boat back to what was I talking about? Skull and Bones. When they were changing the team, right? They apparently did not let these guys into the entire concept, because essentially what was the focus on and what should have not be taken that much long of a development time was take the ship combat from Black Flag, polish it up a wee bit, and just sell it as a multiplayer PvP game. That was the entire fucking idiot, like the fucking idea of it. And then they come up with this. I'm not sure if you saw a trailer, if you saw gameplay of it. It's sad. It makes me literally sad, because I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've seen people play it. I've seen a couple reviews on Skull and Bones, and right now it's one of those things that is being touted as what is going to be the thing that officially gets claimed as what sank Ubisoft as a company. So,
then when Skull and Bones was released, I was basically getting into the stock market myself, and I realized something even darker, and something which, when I was realizing it, everything just made sense. It just was like a click.
I mean,
and everything made sense. I'm talking about Skull and Bones, yeah. So let me actually have a look at it right now while we're recording this. Ubisoft's stock. No, I don't want to go for the earning call. I want to have a look at the stock for Ubisoft. So this is something awfully disgusting, and I've noticed that a lot of companies who sell their stocks openly, like they are not privately owned, they're selling their stocks on the stock market, is whenever they release a game, obviously, or like when they're about to release a game, they are creating high fucking hype. Make that stock go up, because if you know about how stocks work, it's all about interest. So a gaming studio, teasing a game with like good intros, good marketing and all that, public relations, all that stuff, it creates traction, it creates something like that on the stock market we call interest. And in the real world, or like on YouTube, we call it hype, You can probably imagine how this goes like. The stock goes up, and right before release, pretty much everybody who invested, like the people who want to make money off this of the Ubisoft stock, sell their stocks, because it's the best time to do it. Because once they release the game, they're obviously gonna release a shitty version of that game, so the stocks plummet. which at that point is a good point when the stock plummets down, because it receives all that hate, all that criticism, and the interest goes lower and lower because, oh, how dare you make a bad game as an entertainment company. That's the point where you can buy more stocks because, hey, they're cheaper now, Now, this is a thing that you've probably noticed as well. Other companies do this too. Once a bad game released, they are polishing that game. They're working on it. Like they're putting in their spines, right? And in about a couple weeks, months time, the game gets good and people are talking about it again. And boom, you got your stock is your interest up again. And hey, look at that. You made money. You made profit. That sounds awfully dystopian, but it's the reality that we live in. And it's something that I've seen Ubisoft doing time and time and time again. It is so ridiculous. If you look at the graphs for Ubisoft, you can see every time when they were about to release a game. Like right now, it's also a thing with Shadows, right? They were actually something changed today around 15:30. Did they release something new?
No, man. What's going on is actually what one of my next questions is apparently there are talks of a buyout from several big companies, the largest one being Tencent. So
yeah,
with that being a thing, what are your thoughts on that?
So this already happened once. We were already at that point. Back in 2018, when I was joining, we were having the attempted takeover by Vivendi, which they were basically... well, how should I say this? They were basically ending the potential takeover. They basically struck a deal with Vivendi. And, some of those shares that were being sold by Vivendi were sold to Tencent. And then we had the investment by Tencent in the same bloody year. You see where this is going, right? It's
yeah, and history's repeating itself just a lot quicker than normally.
It was even worse when the hashtag #MeToo movement was going on with the sexual misconducts and all that kind of stuff in 2020, which I understand. I saw that shit happen, and I was like, I wouldn't do this if I were you. It's a bad idea, but and it's the thing in 2022. This is like 2 years ago when you could really see also on the stock market when the price just went, it just plummeted down like fucking hell. They Splinter Cell fans were waiting like for a long time for a new title, right? And Ghost Recon fans were like ecstatic when they were hearing about Frontline. Guess what the hell got cancelled?
Take it that'd be Frontline.
Splinter Cell VR and Ghost Recon Frontline were cancelled in 2022. And they were having other unannounced titles as well that were going on with right? And at that time as well, like not long after that, Tencent invested like 300 million euros into Gilmour Brothers Limited. If you don't know, Yves Guillemot is the CEO of Ubisoft. So you could say that they were buying shares of the company that holds part of the CEO's ownerships to Ubisoft. It's understandable that people are going like, yeah, well, Tencent's going to take over Ubisoft. And I mean, yeah, that might be also the reason why the stock is going up. Because honestly, if you look at the state of things right now with Ubisoft's decline, like visible decline, did already, like for me, started already in 2018. But like objectively, I'm stupid. Objectively, it did already last year, right? With a lot of disappointments following one after another, right? Talking Star Wars Outlaws, talking Skull and Bones, talking about Avatar, talking about Shadows.
Okay. Well, see, they might, as you were saying, with the whole sell and everything, with the stock market, Tencent trying to buy them out and all that, they might be trying to go lean. They did push back Shadows until February, and that's just a placeholder. That's not even official. But that's the placeholder, and I believe Ghost of Yotai is supposed to come out at the same time. So, I mean, maybe they are trying to go lean so they look more appealing for a potential buyout.
Yeah, that might be the case. I mean, they're only I feel like they're only rescuing boat that they right now have is to abandon ship at the moment, and or maybe if they eventually get their shit together, hire new management. Because here's the thing: all of this stuff, all of the pains that Ubisoft troubles, and all of the things that are just absolutely wrecking their shit. You could see this. You could see the reason for that as the little man. Let's say it like this, because I was telling you earlier how at Ubisoft when I was working there, that my colleagues were nice, but my bosses were kind of stupid. They were still kind of nice about it, but they were kind of stupid. That's the thing. The management sucks in Ubisoft. Though here's the problem is. I remember an internal speech by Yves Guillemot who was standing there and saying, "Hi, the new CEO of Ubisoft is the player." And I can understand what kind of message he was going for with like, lads, finally fucking focus on fulfilling the wishes of the player. The players, our community, are the ones who should be making or should be telling us what kind of decisions are good and what kind of decisions are bad. But they still didn't act upon those words. Now, where the hell does that go? I can remember there were... Oh, God. This was kind of like a... when you were back in school, these types of allegations, that kind of guy did that and that. This kind of bullshit was going on at sometimes... inside of management that you could sometimes even catch. I'm like, this is kind of stupid. Why are we behaving like little children? And the worst part about this all is that the people who eventually were, replaced by other people, you could see those people be like lower managers. And it felt more like these guys were just power-hungry idiots who were just trying to be the guy who calls the shots, and not try to make a good product, which is evident by everything they do. Everything Ubisoft has pushed out is just by showing they are good. Their toxic positivity is all about, oh, well, we are right. It's not about just accepting criticism or making a good product. It's about being right. It's about being strong, being the alpha. It's all about it. It really is. And I'm like, why do you feel the need to show this dominance if it doesn't make any sense? We're trying to make good products here. We're trying to make people have fun when they play games, And you're standing there like your power-hungry antagonist from Destiny 2 saying, "Oh yeah, ye almighty, what the hell?" And this shit is going on. But I assumed was not just there, because with the hiring and the general favoring others kind of thing, like this kind of toxic workplace culture, it was at the end of my time at Ubisoft, I've noticed something that not just I did notice it, a couple of others noticed it as well, which was kind of weird. So if you didn't know, they got this slight kind of anti-German racist up there in the north of England. At least that's what I experienced, but it could just be because I was coming from Germany. But it's slight, it's not terrible. You're not being treated like the worst kind of people or whatever. Still, a couple of Germans were laid off from the company, right? Well, not just me, who was like working there for not a long time, but also just others. And because they were saying, yeah, we can't afford any more people. And at the same time, new hirees were coming. And all of these hirees were French. All of them are French. The French team, mind you, the French team in the customer relationship center was already, they were struggling finding work. They were already filled with people, with more than enough people. It was the German team that needed more people. It was the German team that needed help with their tickets and with their kind of stuff. It was the Germans a German moderation team or a moderator team that needed more people to help them moderate forums and all that kind of stuff, and other teams as well, mind you. But it was specifically French people for the French team they hired. That was already filled with, not being able to do anything anymore because there was no work for them, So why would you hire a lot of more people for the French team, which was already struggling to find things to work on? I don't get it. It makes no sense. And just judging from that on, and seeing how they acted over the years, I can tell you this. I can tell you where this train ends. I can tell you this is, if they don't get their management, their shit together, and have a look at their management and maybe putting people into a fucking place who want to make an actual good product and not just show how big their dick is, I can see that Ubisoft's rushing towards their end. Like, they're gonna be like the company that we all love, or once knew and loved. It's dead. It's gonna die. It's a sad reality, but I hate to be the bearer of harsh news, but this shit is gonna happen. As long as they don't really, right now, in any second that now, like not tomorrow, not next week, but now, if they don't fucking start like changing things, because they obviously are doing a lot of things wrong.
Well, see, that goes back a little bit towards bias and also forward towards my last question, because you were talking about how the managers of the company were like, we got to do this for the players. But a lot of the allegations of bias towards them is they only want a very specific type of player. They don't care about you if you don't have the exact type of biases that they do. And they don't care about making a good game. They only care about certain types of biases being in their games at this point. But with that being said, you're just pointing out that you think the company is done. It's gone. It's going to be done if they don't start changing immediately. And with, a lot of people are saying that they've permanently ruined their reputation. So do you think they have any chance in hell of actually coming back from what they've done with their reputation crashes that they've been constantly, with all the bad games recently and everything?
I want to be that fair to say possibly. The thing is, they have the tightest time window anyone can ever have in this world to change something, to actually come back, to bounce back from this. They don't really have the time anymore to allow themselves to sit back and say, oh, well, I guess we're gonna release a game that's focused for all types of players. I'm like, Ubisoft has to realize that Far Cry players are interested in Far Cry because it's just running around and shooting and blowing up stuff. I mean, of course it has its story as well. Don't get me wrong, it still has its own story. But I'm just like, they're focused around Far Cry because Far Cry to them is fun. The entire gameplay concept is fun for them. Obviously, not every Far Cry player is interested in Assassin's Creed, and that is fine. That is okay. There's an audience for everything out there. But the thing is, if you try to please everybody, if you try to be everybody's darling, this is actually a fun thing that I learned from a German comedian. It's like, if you try to be everybody's darling, you're gonna get fucked in the ass by everyone. Dumb as that sound, but that's the thing. If you try to please everyone, you ultimately have to accept that you're gonna not just get screwed by a lot of people, but screw yourself up as well. Thing is, when they were making the older Assassin's Creed games, just as to put up in an example, right? Assassin's Creed 1, they removed crossbows because it wasn't historically accurate, They did this because they wanted to create a historical fantasy and immerse people into it. Because how do you immerse somebody into a historic setting if it's not at least 90% immersive, right? How do you do this? Like, how do you make sure that somebody is immersed, for example, in Assassin's Creed 2 in Italy back then, if you're using, like, I don't fucking know, if you're using architecture from Japan.
Oh yeah, all of a sudden you have a katana out of freaking nowhere or something.
That doesn't work. The only justification for anything that's like even remotely Eastern would be like Persian weapons, because of the wars that they fought in back in when Italy was still Rome, and you know that makes sense. That does make sense. Where we're like, all right, cool. You know, they fought with the Persians, but they didn't have katanas in Italy. Of course they didn't. That would make no sense. But if you saw one back in Assassin's Creed 2, you would scratch your head, being like, yeah, no, my immersion's kind of broken, right? I mean, yeah, sure, katanas are cool, but that's no reason to put them in there. So,
I mean, one of the things I actually enjoyed was all the character bios that were back there, because it would actually give you like a little bit of, you know, like, this is the Minchi family, this is what they're all about, this is what they were about. Even if it was fantasy related, they would give you some hard facts about your targets, you know.
Now imagine if they would have done that with or if they're doing that with Shadows, you know, if they have like, yeah, this is the Nobunaga family, you know, Oda Nobunaga in that game, I mean, you're playing in the Sengoku Chidai, Oda Nobunaga is the head of the Nobunaga family, and you're going like, yeah, well, yeah, you know, just talk about him, you know, talk about how this guy is a psychotic, but you know, talk about it, just like show the player history. Historical fiction is done well, not because I just get a historical setting and slap some fantasy shit on it. You know, that is, you might as well sell Monster Hunter that way. You know, that makes sense. And Monster Hunter is its own thing, though. You know, Monster Hunter is not like historical fiction playing in the prehistoric era. It's fiction, you know, because if it would be historical fiction playing in the prehistoric era, I mean, I don't know if you have played Far Cry Primal. I mean, remember that one was a fun game, but you know, it's that Far Cry Primal is a prime example. Can't stop with the puns there.
Oh man, you're being a very, very punny man today.
But it's like Far Cry Primal is a prime example of like historical fiction done even by Ubisoft, done in a relatively decent way, right? Because you're playing actually something that how it would be like if you would play something like Monster Hunter, but in a, you know, historical fictionalized way. It's like not that historical fiction is fantasy, because then it would be historical fantasy. You know what I mean? It's something that they forget about. They forget about themselves. They forget about their history. If they remember what made them great, and if they start actually changing some things in their management, if they start properly listening to their community, and not just that, also to their employees, because let me tell you, the amount of shit that you had to go through sometimes, as an employee, as an employee at Ubisoft, it's quite frankly, it's all just tiring. Like, for me, as somebody who worked there, like, every time I find out something Ubisoft related, I get tired. Every time I play a newer Ubisoft game, I get tired. I don't even get frustrated anymore. I'm just tired. I'm exhausted, you know? And I can imagine that a lot of people feel that way, the same way, because, well, did you, for example, know that Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for example, was initially set to also be set in Germany? Because guess what? Vikings weren't just in England.
No, I had no idea it was going to also be in Germany.
It's just something to think about, you know, like where did that go? Assassin's Creed Valhalla is by no means a terrible game. People enjoyed it, you know?
I mean, it's their highest selling Assassin's Creed title, if I remember correctly.
So it's all right, you know. It's just goes to show, because like, this shit that we're working with right now, the fact that Ubisoft's going to decline more and more, this is just an aftershower of the shit that happened years ago. Like, we were having these issues internally years ago, even before the #MeToo movement, because they had to make sure that they were always in the right. I don't know why. I don't even know. I'm just so exhausted and sad about it all, because I started working at Ubisoft remembering the old Ubisoft, the good Ubisoft, you know, the titles that I loved and to play and enjoyed them, and I just wanted to work for these guys. And then you arrive there and you see this clusterfuck. How are you supposed to feel that in time? How are you supposed to enjoy your time there?
I wouldn't know. Haven't worked for the company, man.
I mean, just saying, it's it's kind of
But no-
sad.
Well, I have to say, thank you for the time you've given me, man. It's been a real eye opener on what Ubisoft was, what Ubisoft still is, and what they have to do in order to actually move forward with this. If you guys, anyone who watched this, actually wants to support Flint here, he has his own channel. It'll be linked in the description below. Man, it was real awesome for you to sit down like this with me. If we have any comments or anything of people who actually want to continue on with this, would you be willing to come back for another interview in the future?
Sure, why not? As long as it's not Jailblade.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, man. Well, I hope everyone had a wonderful time with this. Go ahead and like the video and subscribe so you can get more news from people who are actually out there who've worked with this a little bit, and you'll be able to see when we post in the future. That being said, everyone have a wonderful time. We'll see you again next time. Peace.